So what is metabolic syndrome? Metabolic syndrome will have, for people who have visceral obesity, low high density cholesterol, low high density, and they are high low density. So they're slightly different. Insulin resistance, so insulin will be quite high during fasting and not respond well for new sugar coming in. As a result, the sugar goes up, hypertension, and high triglycerides. So as you can see here, we're more worried about low high density cholesterol and high triglycerides, and bad cholesterol wouldn't matter that much because we need to look on the ratio. If you eat a lot of sugar, that probably will be high in triglycerides. So what is metabolic flexibility? Metabolic flexibility is your body ability efficiently switch between burning carbs, and carbs, there is your bread, some fruits, vegetables, like potatoes, starchy ingredients, and fats for energy, depending on what's available for your activity level. Remember that it's a fuel, it's a hybrid car. When carbs are available, your body uses them for quick energy. Then carbs are low during fasting and exercise or sleep, your body should switch to burning fat, but it's not always happening. So that's why we need to constantly, on a regular basis, to check how our organism switches between carbs and fat. Do our body produce ketones or not? A metabolically flexible person switches between these fuels, I would say, quite smoothly and very effectively. But to do that, you need to practice. So you can't expect, if you always eat too much carbs, that you'll be successful and you will switch then to ketones easily. And that supports stable energy level throughout the day. And of course, not on the day, throughout the night. So they need to make sure they don't have severe drops or missing energy in the fuel during the night time, during the rest time, and it's crucial for brain function, and it's crucial for a lot of restoring functioning during the night. And metabolic flexibility also improve this blood sugar control and helps with fat loss and body composition. So if you can't lose your weight, or you're struggling with your weight, then we have some sort of issue with your metabolism, probably with insulin. So that's why some sort of continuous glucose monitoring might be quite helpful to you understand where is a problem, where is an issue, and how you can resolve it. So main factors that affect metabolic flexibility. Of course, first side is the diet. It's what you eat and how you eat. We always ideally need to start any food with fiber. However, we usually start with food with high refined carbs or sugar. And that is a huge mistake that majority of us doing, or we get used to it. It is in the films, it's in the culture. We see these donuts, they eat porridges in the morning, quite high in carbs, and this is first things what we do, and this is a huge mistake. We need to change. We need to change the culture. We need to change ideology of the breakfast and nutrition. Because start with high refined carbs is reduction of flexibility of our metabolism, rather improvement. Balance intake, of course, balance in terms of how much healthy fats, how much proteins, how much complex carbs, and how efficiently our organism can use one of them. Intermittent fasting or low carbs diets can train your body to burn fat more efficiently, but however is not recommended for lean individuals or very sporty. We don't have enough of reserves of fat, so it might be quite dangerous. So please don't practice intermittent fasting if you are lean or you are in lower side of your body index without healthcare professional. So please make sure, if you want to do that, if you want to have that type of detox, and of course if younger than the age of, for the girls, age of 18, for the boys under 20, because it's simply dangerous. Yeah, so the kids, even their young adult, they're still growing. So make sure they have a proper nutrition without fasting or long fasting. So fasting is not for everyone, but is great if you fit to certain criteria. Physical activity and regular aerobic and resistant exercise improve mitochondrial function and fat oxidation. I'm going to talk a little later about mitochondria and little tricks, what might be done with mitochondria. Sedentary lifestyle limit the body ability to shift between these few, because if the majority is sitting in the chair without moving, that eventually will have very negative effect. We have to move, and mainly at least 10 minutes, just using muscles or legs, even sitting in a restaurant, but move your body a little bit, have movement and contractions of the muscle, even when you're sitting in the chair. So many exercise. When you sit, you can use your legs and try to move up, move your body, contract your body. That already will be great extra to a sedentary lifestyle. Insulin sensitivity problem is the biggest issue, is the biggest problem worldwide, because the more insulin resistant you are, the harder it is for your body to switch from carbs to fat, and we need to burn fat. Yeah, and the more carbs you have, more fat you will put, because we have more insulin, and insulin is the hormone who open up and bring all the fat to the storage. Not all, but quite a lot. Good insulin sensitivity, this means more flexibility. A good sleep quality also means that hormonal balance. If you're not sleeping well, don't expect in the long run good health, good metabolic health. That's not going to happen. Stress levels, cortisol, chronic stress raises cortisol, and cortisol requires a lot of sugar. It craves for, because cortisol is a hormone of alertness, is a hormone of waking up. Cortisol waking up us every single morning. When we're waking up, it starts to peaking around 4-5 o'clock, depends on the person, depends on the season, but getting peaking approximately 1-2 hours after you're waked up and requiring fuel, so you get hungry. That's another good hack for you to have a breakfast 2 hours after you wake up, because your cortisol will be highest level and your metabolism of your carbs or nutrition will be the best way. So just see at what time your body wakes you up. So that means cortisol already goes up, and you say, okay, it's a great day ahead. Just drink water, do your routine, maybe a little bit of exercise, sunshine, looking a little bit in this outside in the sun, get your x-rays for the good day, and within 2 hours you first of all you'll get hungry, and your metabolic rate will be the best to burn and start the day. So body composition, higher muscle mass, better metabolic flexibility, and mainly when you move the muscle. So if you feel tired or you start having brain fog, sometimes linked that you don't have enough of oxygen to the brain and your glucose is not good enough, move your muscle. Because your muscle, when you move and contract them, when you move, yeah, they release a little bit more sugar in the bloodstream, even if you don't eat. So it's great, move around, you notice when you move, you're not really hungry. And then you get relaxed and that's it, you get really, really hungry. So make sure you use your muscle, you train your muscle and build up this muscle, and that will help you to create this timing. So, and of course, age and playing crucial role in metabolic health. Their metabolic flexibility declining with age, and is very important to talk about women, because women we have menopause. Estrogen is the key hormones linked to insulin and sugar. Once your estrogen go into decline, you get more insulin resistant. So that means a lot of ladies are going through the menopause. You probably heard, I don't eat anything, I didn't change anything, but I put on weight, and they start creating these quite big bellies. They collecting this visceral fat because they don't change. And the woman is crucial to understand that they need changes. They need to change their lifestyle. Everything would work before. When we have a high estrogen, it's not going to work anymore because estrogen gone together with benefits and protection for the organism. So, and the best way here is start to exercise, change your diet, accept the way some ladies might decide to go for HRT, hormone replacement therapy, to keep the estrogen level higher. And I would say in menopause training, what I finished, the more advocating that estrogen will protect your heart. It does. Will protect your heart. As a result, they're getting more insulin sensitivity. You're getting less resistant, and that links to the sugar. Yeah, so it's that important. And I will probably make extra course and extra presentation about menopause and perimenopausal and the aging. So now I want to talk about sugars. Sugars, they have a big classifications and is number one fuel for us. So they call them carbs, but they have a simple carbs and complex carbs. Monosaccharides is a simple sugar, and they will be the most commonly known glucose, fructose in the fruits, and galactose. And disaccharides is well quite simple. It's just only two chains together, and it will be maltose, sucrose, and lactose. And so it means milk product in the milk, they break down quite quickly, and they go to the bloodstream as well quite efficiently, quite quickly. And then they have a complex that other sugars, and they have a three groups there: starches, glycogen, and fiber. So yeah, vegetables and fiber, they won't be talk about so much. They're also complex carbs. Yeah, so, and there's definitely, we're not consuming enough of complex carbs. So how body makes sugar without carbs? So here I want to mention that our organ is quite flexible if we use it, and if we don't have carbs, it's a good training for our body to use speech metabolic processes, and one of them is gluconeogenesis. So when you use the proteins that you consume, it might be meat, fish, or chicken, different types of proteins. And in the liver, they convert these amino acids into glucose. So don't worry if you say no to the sugar that your organism will starve and you will die. No, not at all. I'm not saying that you should eat proteins and only not at all. It's also dangerous and might be even toxic. But we want to have a balance, and we want to have a right order in which order we eat and how we start our nutrition and how we start our starters. Definitely not with a bread. Then lipolysis, then they burn out fat. So from the fat, they moving into glycerol, and then from glycerol breaking down to the level of glucose. That breakdown release glycerol converted into the small amount of glucose. And ketogenesis, you probably heard about ketogenic diet or keto diet. So is that the majority you consume fat, proteins, and less than 10% of carbs. So you're still using carbs, but very low, little amount, and quite complex carbs, rather direct fructose, for example, and fatty acids turns into ketones, an alternative brain fuel. So brain loves ketones, and is very good for flexibility. Not that good as doing the exercise, but it's still quite good backup. So if you don't have glucose in the bloodstream during the night or during fasting, your organism using your own fat resources to produce these ketones, and quite adorable, the brain loves it. Actually, every single cell will survive on ketones. We don't want to be for very, very prolonged, very long time for normal healthy person, unless it's not medically indicated, for example, for some brain issues or brain diseases. But in general, it's occasionally it's a good, I would say, detox from the carbs. Glyconeogenesis then is the stored carbs turn into glucose. so when they use existing resources, and this happening during fasting during nighttime, and glycogen from the liver gets released, then the signals telling us, oh, your sugar goes down during nighttime, your liver release stored carbs into the bloodstream, and it's happening quite quickly. So in terms of glucose spikes, if you want to learn more about glucose spikes, I highly recommend you different types of continuous glucose monitoring. You will see how you respond to food. All our theory is just a theory because, yes, we know there is some food with high glycemic index and lower. It is the theory, but how you respond to every specific food is really dependent on your in your metabolic rate and your metabolism. But carbs, of course, they have a highest glucose, create as highest glucose spikes in the bloodstream. And because 90 to 100% of them depends on the source of a carb that turns into glucose. And the spikes might be quite fast, from 10-15 minutes, and or might be, even for some individuals, the spike might appear only after 2 hours. Protein is a second, quite good, but it's taking longer. Around 50% of proteins that we consume turns into glucose, and another will be stored and for later use. For muscle, building up the muscle mass, for example, amino acids, they use an organism for so many different things. And they peak around 2 to 4 hours, so expect that your spike will go. First of all, it won't be that big comparison to carbs, and it take much longer, so expect it after 2 to 4 hours. And fat, they have very low impact on your spikes, it's like around 10% only turns to glucose, and they release very slowly over 8 to 10 hours. So it's very important to understand that in the night time, sometimes we can put a little bit of in evening or fat before you go to bed if you have hypoglycemia, for example. So what happened and how it's affecting our organism. So when glucose go to the bloodstream and go to the stomach and then to the digestive system, it's go to the muscles, to liver, and in pancreas gets in signals that we have a food. Insulin get produced, and without insulin they can't store fat cells. Fat cells can't grow. Whatever you do, if you switched off insulin, without insulin it's not going to happen. And insulin will be in the bloodstream only if you eat carbs. That means if you reduce your carbs, you can't put too much fat deposit. So all the stories is somebody getting bigger because they don't eat carbs. That's a story. They have insulin. If they don't eat carbs and they still putting on weight, they probably have insulin resistance, and the insulin is not getting reduced in fasting time, and that already need medical attention. So I want you to understand that as having very important part of metabolic health is insulin. So blood sugar spikes, once you have a high sugar spikes, you will have the rapid, the more intense insulin response you will get. So it means the more sugar you eat, the more faster on empty stomach you will eat, the greater spikes will go, and the more intense, more pronounced insulin will be produced. And if you continue to do it long run, you finally, your cells get resistant. Insulin resistance get developed, and frequent sugars intake, and insulin cells stop responding because it's too much for them. They need a break, they need to relax, and if you constantly, your organ is overloaded at all time with sugar, one after now one, it just can't cope anymore. Fat storage come from excess sugar. So when the sugar that we consume already in the bloodstream, then 60% around, it really depends how much sugar you take. So it's not, let's not talk about percentage. Then liver take to store glycogen in the liver as a backup for the fasting time or for the time they need to be released. When you notice that your blood sugar goes down, there's less of fuel. But all the rest, if your liver gets capacity, full capacity, all the rest goes to the fat. Yeah, so you will not create these fat cells, and your fat cells not going to grow if you don't eat sugar. Yeah, so that's the end. Yeah, so it's not going to happen. Cholesterol imbalance, because high sugar intakes, they lower in high density lipoproteins, and it's good lipoproteins because they will they help with cholesterol in general is based to deliver and the fats actually around delivery, I would say, let's call it Volt or Uber of the fat cells in our organism. So it's a very important molecule. Yeah, so we want this to be balanced as well. The more sugar we eat as well, we get more increased inflammation. Added sugar can promote chronic low-grade inflammation, and it's a driver to metabolic disease. So if you've done the blood test and you know you are high in you're high in inflammation, that expect something will kick you in. It might be high blood pressure, it might be diabetes, or something like that, what we discussed before, because there's parameters. So we can see a lot of alarming issue. And of course, number one alarm, it will be increased fasting insulin. And all that are hidden in processed food, because food manufacturers want to create the food delicious, very yummy for all of us. That's why they create in this tasty, they use a lot of sugars, a lot of fat, and actually fat dangerous because they will not creating these huge spikes. Even if you're wearing continuous glucose monitoring, you wouldn't see them, but the damage from a combination of fat and sugars will be incredible. So insulin, let's talk a little bit more in depth. I understand it's a very important hormone. What is insulin? It's a hormone produced by the pancreas, and it regulates sugar and glucose in our organism, in our bloodstream. How insulin works: so after eating, glucose raises and goes up, and insulin gets released to help cells to absorb this glucose. So every single cell in our organism waiting for glucose. They're anxious. We need the food. And so literally waiting, where is insulin, is outside, deliver, open the gate, and will deliver a little bit of sugar. So they're sitting there and waiting. And so insulin is released to help cell absorb the glucose, and glucose is used for energy or stored as a glycogen in the liver or muscle. So it's our fuel, it's everything. So it's very important we have balanced our fuel, have a good quality and a good resource, this fuel. So what happens if insulin spikes? So don't test it, because the test is quite expensive. So I would say don't push your GP, because your GP is not going to prescribe if you live in the UK. If you live elsewhere, it's quite expensive test. And a lot of healthcare professionals, they don't want you to know unless is not a significant metabolic problems, hormonal disbalance, and they need to investigate your insulin. So they usually look on your sugar biomarker. However, if you want to know more about the spikes, you can see using glucose, continuous glucose monitoring by yourself. And what you will see that is actually going opposite. So the higher go glucose, they still have a low insulin. Well, they expect to be low unless you don't have metabolic syndrome, metabolic problems, and you will see that by your belly size, it's a big belly, so you probably might be already resistant and your insulin raised even in the fasting time. But if you're going to monitor what's happening, your sugar goes up and dropping down, and then your sugar goes down, your insulin goes up. So it goes in slightly different directions. More insulin and glucose goes down. Yeah. So this is and causing these crashes. The deeper crashes, that mean higher spike of insulin. So it's made a bit too much. And what is too much for you is absolutely different too much for me. So we all have different sensitivity, and they all have different sensitivity to the insulin. So with different words, how we respond to direct sugar, simple sugars will be different. And it's very important. Don't listen other people of the diet or advice was good for them, because what's good for them will be not good for you. So here we need only individual approach to every single person. So please understand that. And we don't know, I don't know, being an expert in metabolic health or lifestyle medicine, how you're going to respond to potato or rice. I have no idea. You might have a huge spikes, might not. If you have a huge spikes, ideally stop consuming or consume much lower quantities to prevent diabetes or formation, because that's quite a long time. It's not happening one day. Diabetes is a long journey, around 10-15 years. So how does insulin work? So we already discussed the insulin, they open the gate for hunger cells sitting and waiting, anxious. So this is anxiety that actually anxious cells causing anxious mind and human being. And a lot of doctors in psychology now, we know in metabolic health that if you suffer from anxiety, we need to look at your diet. We need to look on your insulin levels. And they need to see what's going on there, why you have an anxiety, because anxiety coming from these anxious cells, which is looking for glucose and something not going right. So the cells have receptors and they're closed because they need to protect themselves, and they have billions and billions of cells. And they need insulin is like a tiny little key who will go into the surface to open the channel the glucose goes there. Without insulin, that's not going to happen. So the molecule comes and go. It's like a delivery guy of a food, if you say it's Uber, if you like. And with a lot of insulin there is everywhere getting open this channel, and the sugar go to the cell, and then set get closed because they full of nutrition. They got their fuel, if you like. However, if this channel not opening or partly opening or not closing, there is a problem. So, and that all metabolism literally is all about. So insulin goes affecting on the brain. They're saying the signals that we have enough. So in society, as you probably know and you heard about Ozempic. So Ozempic lowering down insulin, and actually Ozempic affecting the brain satiety parts from the stomach and making you feel that you're full, but it's going away the stomach is directly to the bloodstream and into the brain. And so glucose affecting in the gut GLP, glucagon-like peptide 1, GLP-1. So you probably know that as somebody using Ozempic as magic slimming jab that are quite against of, but that is what they do. So good things insulin does. The best thing when insulin does is lower blood sugar. So the blood sugar, they need the sugar, but they don't need too much. So, and that insulin is our number one friend. He will make sure you have enough of sugar, you have enough of fuel, and helps us absorb glucose from the blood for energy for every single cell, brain and heart. It promotes energy storage, so it stimulates glycogen synthesis in the liver and the muscles, and support fat storage. We hate fat, but we need to understand we all need fat, and if you don't have fat storage as well, you need to build it up, and it's quite hard to do without insulin, so without the spikes, or it's an art, I would say. They support protein synthesis as well, encourage amino acids uptake to build the muscle, so it's if you want to be more muscular and have this muscular look, then you need to make sure your insulin working great. If not, it will be a very long journey to build up this new muscle. It regulates fat metabolism because it inhibits fat breakdown, lipolysis, prevents excess free fatty acids in the bloodstream. It maintains blood vessels health. It promotes production of nitric oxide, which helps blood vessels relax and maintain healthy blood pressure. So, as you understand, if a person with diabetes, increasing automatically blood pressure goes up. It supports growth and cells repair, plays a role in cell growth and cell regeneration, and is balancing also electrolytes. So, are you insulin resistant or not? As I said, a blood test, hard to do. Not hard to do, it's quite expensive to do. I think you can find laboratories, but it's not a standalone procedure or classic procedure in the United Kingdom, in the UK, so don't expect everybody will test you, but you can ask individually and privately to test your insulin levels, fasting insulin, I would recommend. But how you can understand, are you insulin resistant or not? If you're unable to lose your weight and you reduce your kilocalories or you're fighting, that probably, yes, something going wrong and you need to address this. If you feel tired or you experience fatigue after meals, then you got your meals, already we're not talking only about are they full of carbs or not. You have ache and you have a different sort of pain, and you have abdominal fat. So you see, I'm not insulin resistant, but the people with a belly or larger visceral fat, that probably quite predominant side that you might be resistant. You have a craving for sugar, then you want something sweet. You feel hunger. So majority of the time you think, oh my God, yeah, I'm quite hungry, and tiredness. You have fatigue, you don't have energy, you're quite low. Acne or facial hair, or you suffer from infertility or polycystic ovary syndrome. And you might have different types of hormone disbalance. It might be low testosterone or affecting estrogen. And of course, in high cholesterol and triglycerides. High triglycerides linked to the sugar. Yeah, so if you consume a lot of sugar, you probably will have a high triglycerides as well. It's like a biomarker we need to look at. And as a result, that will affect your estrogen dominance and even thyroid glands. So I now want to talk about low carb diet. As you probably understand, the sugar is great, but we need to be limited, and we want insulin to work properly. And I want to discuss the difference between low sugar diet and low carb diet. As I explained, the carbs are different types. The starches, fiber, they are very good carbs. But the sugars are sugars. It's fructose and processed sugar, like normal sugar you put usually in your tea. So carbs allowed in the low sugar diet, we're talking about less than 15 grams a day. So sugar, yeah. So make sure. Ideally, and the World Health Organization don't recommend more than 20-25 up to 30. Sugar per fructose and sugar per day. But if you want to try the diet, make sure it's less than 15 grams a day. So, what the goal is to reduce your sugar spikes and cravings for the sugar. And if you will follow such diet, and if you want to improve your metabolic health, please try it, because having great detoxification and a great results. And a low carb diet, you cut all the carbs, including fiber and including starches, fruits and vegetables. I don't recommend to start straight away. If you don't have medical needs for that and your doctor didn't prescribe you, because you need to be monitored and you have to be consulted before you go for a low carb diet. because it's non-starchy vegetables, limited fruits, it's a lot of limitation, and you often go into ketosis. You start produce ketones, and some ketones are good for certain people but might be quite dangerous for others. So make sure you don't do it without a proper consultation with healthcare professional. So in terms of what we can use in the low carb vegetables, for example, if you decide to go still to low carbs, it might be spinach, mushrooms, asparagus, broccoli, cabbages, zucchini, and cauliflower, mushrooms, and kale. And low carbs also in terms of fish might be salmon, lamb, beef, chicken, eggs, strawberry. Yeah, and if you decide to do this diet, then yeah. So if you decide that's it, I want to go for the low sugar diet, I will trigger now, I will check my flexibility, metabolic flexibility. Expect some flu. Is that a flu? Is a sugar flu? Is your organism response to reduction of sugar in your bloodstream, and you will get ill. You will feel so uncomfortable. You might feel fatigue, you might have irritability, you might have cravings, your blood sugar drops, and you will have these energy crashes. What to do in the first few days is usually up to 3 days. You really everything is so bad. Hydrate and eat fiber and proteins. Yeah, so just try to go on and just prepare yourself psychologically. That will be a very hard time for me. On day number 5, you might start already mood swings, so you have dizziness, you might have a brain fog, your insulin trying to adjust, and the gut microbiomes shift, yeah, because we have so much bacteria in the gut and they're used to the old diet, and then big changes start to finally persist that, because you start to eat different food and there's no sugar, and the bad bacteria that got the lack of them, and sort of them have to go. They're dying, they're not happy about it. And the good bacteria, so it's some sort of war, I would say. And of course, microbiomes affect another directly to the brain, and you might be sensitive, you might have quite anxious, you might be very depressed. How you feel is very hard to predict. But again, if you have that, make sure you have a good health professional around who can talk about it, your symptoms, for not to panic or treat something with no need treatment. Yes, it's absolutely no need paracetamol or diet or eat a lot of honey as a result to treat your cravings. No, it's not that. And after the week, you start feeling that your cravings come down, and you start to have a clearer mind. The ketones probably start to kick. Your metabolism start to shift to the double fuel. You improve your insulin sensitivity. Yes, that's quite good. 1 week, within a week, you might see red results, and you start to use your fat. So you still cope with moderate complex carbs. Might be barley, very good. I love barley, or chia seeds. You can see what is more suitable for you. In day number 15, so after 2 weeks of that magic diet, you start to notice that you have more energy. Your sleep improved, and you have a fever cravings for the sugar, and taste start to change in 2 weeks' time. Everything, your favorite sweets start to taste too sweet for you, and you think, oh my God, I can't believe I was able to eat it before because it's too much. And you start to burn your fat more efficiently, and you have a more stable gut. So before that, you might feel discomfort in your stomach. You might have some sort of diarrhea or constipation or even bloating, because they're shifting the bacteria. You're not feeding bad bacteria anymore, but with sugar, because it's not there. So another bacteria is entering, because you still eat probably more fiber or more complex carbs, and they shift and they change in microbiomes, everything that was happening in your stomach. Consistent energy, day number 21, so after 3 weeks, if you will be able to make it, you have consistent energy and minimal cravings. And your metabolism get adapted to your new lifestyle, plus minus, and you ideally still avoiding a lot of sugar. So there is a different places how you can test. I highly recommend you to test your blood, because you need to know, ideally before sugar detox diet, I would love you to know what's going on. From age of 40, you can request your GP and have your health check. Usually get an invitation from age of 40 to 45 to see what's going on, because they expect some sort of changes by age of 40. If not, you're younger, I highly recommend you to find a private laboratory and do you some basic analysis of your blood. Is a tiny little pick of this from your finger. If you talk to pharmacists, majority of the big pharmacies already sell in a lot of different blood test kits that you can test and monitor your health by yourself without queuing for the doctors, because NHS has limits, and as we know, sadly, NHS can't cope, and 60% of them linked to metabolic health and unhealthy lifestyle. We can't treat any healthcare professionals, is not enough of us, is not training enough, and we need to switch to encouraging people start to learn to look after themselves and have a more lifestyle medicine specialist, healthcare professionals who will help you and support you during your journey on reduction and improving your metabolism. So now I want to talk about a very popular thing, and I 100% recommend to all of you who wants to improve metabolic health, want to find out what's going on, is to monitor your blood sugar levels. So you can buy instant finger glucometers. They are around from 20 to 60 pounds. You can buy in the pharmacy, you can buy them online on Amazon. So, but what you need to do, you need to pick your finger, and you can see your blood fasting glucose in the morning, or for example, to test how you spike to high glycemic food, for example. Are you pre-diabetic or not? Do you need to worry or not? However, I recommend you continuous glucose monitoring test with exactly what I'm wearing, because you don't know, and sometimes you can't catch the moment then you might have metabolic issue. For example, hypoglycemia. I have no idea, but I'm hypoglycemic, I'm slim and I'm lean, and a lot of people, I'm sure, like me, will be underdiagnosed because in the paper I was absolutely healthy with absolutely no single concern. And only when I start to use for fun, for practice, I discovered I'm severely hypoglycemic at night, and severe changes, lifestyle changes need to be taken. So you might be sadly one of them. And if you are, then might save your life, at least might make your life so much better. So if people have severe anxiety, yeah, so I would say you need it. If somebody have a big belly, I would recommend. Mental health issues or coping mechanisms that work in, so it's anxieties, depression, it's some sort of avoidance and insecurities, that sort of things of mental health. And a lot of teenagers going through metabolic instability, and as a result they're too anxious. Yeah, so we don't know there's a problem, but if you have malfunctioning glucose monitoring, your brain not going to function, yeah, because it's under constant stress and a constant anxiety, and anxiety of one of them. Sadly, we don't have the right approach yet, and your GP and our system is not trained enough to have a proper readings. Historically, these continuous glucose monitors, they've been only for diabetes, but now we encourage everyone by it to improve your life and monitor how you respond to food and have your own plan. There has plenty. Is Freestyle Libre free. This Dexam one is more for people with diabetes. It's more by prescription. You need to have metabolic issue or metabolic problem, because they have alarm or wake you up. For example, if your glucose, as in my case, go very dangerously down or wake you up, so you can at least be awake. because if you have an awareness, it's quite dangerous. So you don't have shakiness, you don't have any symptoms of your low blood sugar, and is another suddenly high, and the people might have severe up and downs, and there is very low sugar, you might go to the coma, it might be unconscious, and as a result you might have a sudden death syndrome. So it is serious, and if you lean super active and sometimes you have a craving, so shakiness is good as well as me. Try and check, when you check, you know you're fine and you can continue your life. If not, if you see you have hypoglycemia or have an issue, you have to make reasonable changes. Lingo is another one, but at the moment it's working only with iPhone. So if you have an iPhone, you can use Lingo. It's quite good because it's more for lifestyle rather than metabolic glucose directly and insulin. So is why I recommend you to have, because as a coach, there's little device on your phone. They're going to coach you, going to train you, going to explain you what's going on, and you will feel it's like a connection to your own cells. If you want disconnected, for example, you're going through a stressful time or something's going on, it's a very good distraction. It's very dangerous as well because you might be overtaken, but it have an immediate effect, feedback for you. You eat, okay, where's my numbers? And you can speed up your motivation because you will see how, for example, after 1 week, when you've done the changes, you see a reduction in your general sugar levels in your bloodstream. It's encourage you eat better because you see how you respond to food. It's also encourage you for movement when you exercise how your sugar drops, for example, compare if you have a high sugar levels, and also improve your sleep and stress awareness, because when you get stressed you see that actually your sugar goes up, because the stress hormone gets released. And it's very good prevention for development of metabolic issue and metabolic problem. So I want to talk about nocturnal hypoglycemia is my case, and mainly if you're super fit, you exercise in the gym and you think that you're so cool, you're metabolically great, and you have your all laboratory GP checks that you're absolutely healthy, don't be sadly it might be not the case. So sadly a lot of people going to the gym at all time, they don't follow healthy diet, and they do experience nocturnal hypoglycemia at night. So there's a drop in blood glucose below normal levels, is generally under 3.9 millimole per liter or 70 milligram during the night, and typically between midnight and 6 a.m. So usually the time when you sleep. That means you have too much insulin release at night for different reasons. It might be stress, or might be skipping or delaying your dinner or a snack before you go to bed. It might be increased physical activity before bed as well. You might go to the gym late at night, especially in the evening. It might be linked to the alcohol consumption if you drink in the evening before bedtime, for example. Inadequate carbs intake, for example, is just missing carbohydrates during the daytime, and your liver don't store enough to release during the nighttime to keep your sugar level on needed sugar levels above 4, around 4. And in proper insulin doses, timing if in case of diabetes or some sort of malfunction, hormonal malfunction, then you need to start investigation to find out what's the reason of such drops. So usually we say if you lean and occasionally drop up to 3.6, it'll be okay. But if you go lower than that, I highly recommend you to start investigation and start treatment as soon as possible. So what symptoms usually of hypoglycemia is a night sweat. So you start to sweat, you might have a nightmares or even vivid dreams. Yes, it's linked to the low sugar. Is a restless sleep, so you waking up in the morning and still very, very tired. You waking up confused or with a headache. You have fatigue, or really irritability in the morning, so that sort of anxiety, and you have elevated blood sugar after walking, so you might wake up. That was my case. When you're waking up in the morning, the blood sugar is absolutely fine. Samoggy effect, yeah, but actually, realistically, it's not. I was fighting for every single night for several times to keep my glucose on the range. So glucose spikes and drops here is important. So people who are responding quite severely, so to different food, they might develop reactive hypoglycemia. So this means when you consume sugary stuff like Nutella or a lot of carbs, ice cream, your sugar rises very quickly and it drops and it grows to a quite dangerous level, again, because it's too much insulin. So here again, you need to avoid these crashes, because crashes are never good. So if it's controlled crashes, then not going under the dangerous level, that's fine. But if you have fast drops, that might be quite dangerous. They affect your cognitive function, they affect on your mood, again on your anxiety and your depression. On the end, that crashes where you don't see the effect everywhere, and you might feel hungry, so you just eat, and it's just not the right food for you, and you just need to change it. You need to understand that wasn't a good choice for me. Protects and gains insulin resistance. Frequent spikes cause your body release more insulin, and that's a danger, because if you constantly, on a regular basis, spike a lot of insulin, high concentration, your cells get numb. As a result, you get resistant. Yeah. So here, morning insulin might be a good test to see are you resistant or not. What is your morning concentration of insulin in the bloodstream? And if you overload yourself with a starchy and sugary food, you might have already high level of insulin in the morning. As a result, you might have diabetes, fatty liver. You will put on weight as a result, because without insulin, you can't put on weight, and other problems with metabolism. The chain after that grows blood pressure, hormones, thyroid glands, and then you're jumping from appointment to appointment. So that we can improve it. It's also reduced oxidative stress, and so sharp spikes damage blood vessels by increasing oxidative stress and inflammatory cytokines, and these spikes affecting and making more risky cardiovascular diseases. So if you reduce the spikes, you also improve your energy, you improve your mood, and you improve your focus. So you understand, I highly motivating you have reduction of sugar intake, some sort of carbs, simple carbs for sure, and go through this sugar flu with me. I'm more than happy to support you, and highly recommend as well, encourage you to monitor to see you are fine and you don't have any hidden issues. Okay, now I want to talk about the energy, because we need sugar for energy, and energy comes from ATP. You might be heard about it. It's like $1, or it's like £1, or it's like €1. It's ATP is a currency of energy in our body. It's our energy. How much energy you have, that's mean how much money, how rich you are. Yeah. And that's true. And we all want to be rich. We want to have a savings of a bank account, and we want to have energy, so we want to have this ATP, and ATP is adenosine triphosphate molecule. So it's energy carrying, and so it's coming with 3 different parts: adenine, ribose, and ribose is sugar, and phosphates group. And this energy, or this currency, come from mitochondria. So if you like, it's the Bank of England who's making, so it's Bank of England, and our organism is mitochondria. And they they produce. They put the main energy currency is the power O cells to move everything around, except everybody have mitochondria, except red blood cells. Yeah, so because they deliver oxygen, is they mature when they don't have mitochondria. Yeah, all the rest they have mitochondria to function, to deliver, and to trade, if you like. Yeah. So what is mitochondria? So probably we all know about mitochondria, but it's very important to, first of all, do you know how many mitochondria do we have per cell? For example, in oocyte or in egg, female egg, they have the highest concentration of oocyte of mitochondria, from 100,000 to 600,000 mitochondria per one cell. Can you imagine how much? Huge amount. And only mature red cells completely don't have mitochondria. So in general, the fat have mitochondria, muscle have mitochondria, and every single cell have it. And more mitochondria you have, more energy you will have. Less mitochondria, low in energy and low mood, etc. And these mitochondria, they need a fuel. They need a sugar, or they need a thing to function, to produce, because the Bank of England need still to make the money. To make this money, they need to also run, and they need a fuel for that. And if you have a bad fuel, then you start to malfunction, and your mitochondria first of all start to die. Yes, they do die, and you reduce your mitochondria, and as a result, you don't have this energy. Or if you have very good fuel, you exercise, there is more money, there is more mitochondria, and as a result, your mitochondria produce more energy. So the fuel is very important, and more you eat sugar, direct sugar, the more killing your own mitochondria, because they need flexibility, they need good energy, they need the balance. They need ketones as well. They need so many things. So that's why take care of your mitochondria. And I'm going to talk a little bit more. So, how much we get mitochondria per fat cells? Let's talk about fat, because we all want to lose weight. And this visceral fat in here is probably biggest concern majority of women and the men. I would say even more, these big bellies and the visceral fat. Yeah. And fat cells, I would say, have a three classification. They have a brown, beige, and white. So what's the difference? First of all, brown fat cells reach with newborns because they don't have thermoregulations yet, and majority of the fat they have is super efficient and they warm up the baby, because the baby doesn't walk yet, it doesn't talk, and this tiny little baby fat is a brown fat, and they're full of mitochondria, and this mitochondria is creating great metabolic great production of energy and heat. So children and lean and active children or adults, they have by body composition about 30-40% in the fat will be rich in mitochondria. But when you get older or inactive, you have only 8-12%. So that's mean in brown fat cells we have around 100 to 5,000 mitochondria per one brown cell, and in white fat cells only on around 100 or less. So yeah, you look big, but you don't have energy. Mitochondria quantity and quality boosters. So how we can increase amount of mitochondria in our cells. And number one is exercise. Why? Because endurance exercise is around to 60 to 70% of heart rate, and resistance training, 3-5 sessions per week, will show changes in 2 to 4 weeks. So that means your white fat cells will transfer to the brown or beige. As a result, I mean beige, not the color. Why is it getting color? Why white are white? Because we don't have mitochondria. And then they get turned into the beige because we have more mitochondria in there. Cold exposure is another very good option. Cold exposure, regular exercise or regular exposure to discomfortable temperature. Discomfort, that means I might have one temperature, I'm not comfortable, and you have another temperature. So when you feel uncomfortable, just spend 10-15 minutes. It's cold for you. It might be cold shower. It might be you might have go outside, something to do. It's uncomfortable for you. If you do regular exposure for 10-15 minutes, exercise early in the morning and a little bit chilly, and you feel this coldness, you also increase mitochondrial production, and you switch them from white to brown. You might swim in a cold swimming pool or a cold ocean. A little bit, if you can do it, you can take some cold showers in the morning for a few minutes, or cold baths. Hypoxia. And another booster, hypoxia, is you low in oxygen, and when you go up in the mountains, so that's why mountains holiday is so good for longevity and also increase your mitochondria. And the people who, the blue zones, and the people live longest, they actually live in between the ground and go up in the mountains. So it's Italy, it's Greece, it's Japan, and all this area is quite rich of different attitudes. And people in winter time they're down, and in the summertime you usually go in the mountains because it's not that hot. And yeah, they are very longevity, one of the best. And so in terms of how long on holidays, if you want to go on the holiday in the mountains, approximately 2 weeks of exposure, they will make changes. So when you're feeling and go in the mountains, you're so tired, you don't have energy. Yeah, it's because lack of oxygen. But then your mitochondria adapt to that and getting very efficient. Yeah, very effective. Fuel type, ketones and lactate. So lactate get produced during exercise only in this quite short period of time, and is an amazing food for the brain. If you want brain flexibility and plasticity, if you want to improve your brain function, exercise. That's the best. Nothing better than that. No supplements exist. Whatever people say, they found some correlation here and there. Exercise is #1 predictor of your brain function. If you want to solve your problems, or you have some issues you need to think about, go and exercise, and think about it. It will be the best, because lactate will feed your brain as nothing else. Your clarity in the brain will be as nothing, as in any sweet, any sugar, not coffee, nothing will make better than lactate. Yeah. So next time when you exercise and you have a problem and you need to think about it, go and exercise and think about the problem and see, how clear situation getting into your brain. So brain loves it, and the heart cells loves it. They love it so much that they get produced. People think that actually lactate is the same as lactic acid, and there is the pain. So when you exercise too much, and it's not the case. That was a mistake 20-30 years ago, or I know 50 years ago, I don't know how many years ago. They done research and they found the difference after the exercise in pH in the muscle, but it's not linked to the lactate. Lactate is produced, yes, correct, but acidity happening because they burn ATP energy and hydrogen from burned money, if you like, when being burned during a process and produce a lactate, another fuel from the area. So that's why if you do exercise, you feel pain here, because you burn energy from this area, and it will hurts until the pH get restored. Yeah, so that will happen. But little achy pain, like pain, but it's lactate is a different substance. It's not lactic acid. The pain coming not from lactate. Lactate is good stuff, very good stuff. But if you feel pain, that's great. So you definitely produce lactate. So now I want to talk a little bit about the zone, target zone, and based on your heart rate and your heart rate levels. To lose weight, we don't want you to run or do very, very severe exercise, so make sure you stay in quite low recovery zone. And so it's very important to build up your fitness gradually, because organisms are quite fragile and does take time. So maybe fitness instructor can help you as well, but healthcare professionals, we are recommending people who didn't exercise before start very slow and for lose weight just step by step. So it's quite slow process. So as you imagine, I'm going to talk about so important things today, that all that is covered under new part of medicine. We call it lifestyle medicine. So lifestyle medicine is a new, new part of classic medicine. We usually healthcare professionals with different background and now getting trained. British Society of Lifestyle Medicine or American Society or European Society. So societies get united because they more working with a world crisis of metabolic health and the issues. So what's our lifestyle medicine and what is that? What I'm talking about all this time. So is a healthy eating. First of all, we need to see what's going on in the mouth, but coming in and coming out, if you like. So it's number one point. Second point is movement. How much we move, how much we love of the body, what we do in the day. Are we understanding of the body? Do we know what is that and that is a part of our body? So we need to move. Even to talk, we're moving. We're moving very, very strong muscles. One of the strongest actually muscles of the body. Then of course we need to sleep. So the science of medicine cover the correct sleep patterns of what is going on in the sleep, because the sleep will depend on your food, or depends on your level of your exercise, and they're all linked. So you can't exclude them and work on your sleep if you don't look at all these points together. Then we talk about stress management. What about your stress? Do you know what is stress? Do you know how you respond to the stress? Do you know your spikes? How your sugar respond, because stress does require sugar. It uses a lot of energy, and they need a fuel. Then your stress is a very intense process. So if you feel that, you need to monitor your food, your exercise, and your sleep. I says then positive social connections, your relationships. What your relationships with your colleagues, with your family, your children? What about your loved one, your romantic partner? Romantic partner play the most crucial role in health. Nobody can change you better and have you better inspiration, motivation than your loved one. So somebody very close, family, children, parents, very close friends, and work colleagues and society, your neighborhood, where do you live, the country, your culture, how social active you are, and of course risk of substance and addictions. Addictions is a huge topic because addictions, they got so many different addictions. Even addictions, for example, different addiction smartphones now, the new one addiction in the sleep, to make sure you sleep perfectly well. That also addiction of a healthy lifestyle. People get mad. Just we're worrying with no needs, checking everything, how much they sleep, how much they run, how many steps they done, and that as well another part of another bias really, what we need to make sure it's not happening. So that's why it is important to have some healthcare professional around you who will guide you, who will say, don't worry, that's absolutely fine. And take your time and do it step by step. So I can tell you that probably today that's it. I would love to finish and I will make cuts of this video and I will put them as well for your further references. So thank you so much, everyone.